welcome to the Phantom Troupe Sushi Forum number 3, where we're discussing this Phantom Troupe strategic raise proposal all week long. Starting off, I want to sort of just recap the proposal and the raise as it is currently formatted. Omakase, you probably the best person to cover that just so I don't mess up any of the terms. But yeah, would you want
Sure.
to take that, Omakase?
Yeah, happy to discuss the current terms and any items that we feel need to go under subsequent revision. So generally, there's a lack of appetite for a discount. So we'll be requiring any participating entity to join at spot or 30-day TWAP. And as mentioned in previous AMA sessions, equality of access is important to us. It's a key objective. So whatever terms and whatever raised amount is available to kind of the institutional side will be equally available to the community side as well. And generally that's the base structure. And I'm happy to discuss any execution details specifically. And welcome any feedback from the community regarding like how we structure the community portion, because there are some edge cases that we need to watch out for, right, to prevent institutions from joining that round, etc. Making sure it's available to existing sushi holders, etc., etc. But those details to be discussed, and welcome any feedback on Twitter, the forum, and also in these daily AMA sessions that we've set up for this week and also next week. So happy to continue discussing these topics, and also what will be available to all parties. So the institutional raise and the community raise will also be this options segment, and those terms will continue to be revised. And happy to have Uma here today, who has lots of experience writing structured products, etc. And I think one key thing from this entire process is basically demonstrating the strength of community and network effects. That we have a lot of people who care about sushi and care about refining the proposal to the best they can be. And also we have lots of interested parties, and it's all about like designing kind of a structure for us to achieve a target goal together. So that's kind of what this option gets into. Of course, there's many different details in that option that can be readjusted. And regardless of what the outcome is, I think the entire process has generated tons of organic innovation. Right, people are proposing new protocols. From the result of all these discussions, and that's been awesome. I think Uma's had some ideas with range tokens and also success tokens. There's also been other protocol level suggestions. And happy to discuss today and ask them questions about like potential future implementations for when protocols have kind of like raises like these. So I'll hand it over to you, Magic Turtle and Tangle.
Yeah, thanks. And so for just to discuss sort of like the call option idea, because that is sort of what would be or could be theoretically fulfilled by a UMA style contract. Do you think this is something that's better offered potentially to the community versus VCs, or do you think, or the funds interested, or do you think this is something that should be offered to both? Do you see issues with using smart contract, synthetic call options with these larger funds? Because I'm almost like my gut instinct tells me that like this is a functional tool to use the UMA contracts, but it runs less risk to simply offer it to the community, um,
Right,
just
definitely.
some unforeseen.
Um, I think in terms of, so I'll leave the technical aspect to the UMA team, and I think, next week, we can definitely begin, if there is momentum on this proposal, we can definitely begin to address execution specifics, regarding like, if we can, I guess this week discuss really, how we unify on the terms, then we can really begin to discuss, right? Like, is UMA going to be implementing? Is it like a group? Are there existing contracts that UMA has, etc. Um, and generally, I think for this like options structure, as we said, right, equality of access is important. So we want, institutions and the community to be able to access the same terms. So this will probably be, through some on-chain mechanism. And ultimately, at the end of the day, what we hope to achieve through kind of options, and the pricing has yet to be right determined, is to really signal, a future price floor, right, or pin a future price, on sushi, right? Because you know, uh, you know, this kind of like incentive is not really realized if sushi doesn't go up to a certain price, right? And we feel that that's the easiest success metric, right? Because you can go more detailed, but if we're not all working together and the ecosystem is not growing and not thriving, and we don't reach that price, on top of other exogenous factors, then quite simply we just it's a lose lose for everybody, right? There's no incentive, right? The call option expires worthless. Also, price is not moving, etc. So it's really about designing the initial structure to seek alignment. That's, I guess, pretty important in this revised proposal. Welcome, Uma's thoughts, on execution, etc. And any, other ideas that they might have for like future kind of proposed, future like raise, and any tools that can come from that as well.
Yeah, Omakase, to jump in, and Turtle cut me off too if you want, but just I want to actually highlight what Omakase said at the beginning, where like what we should be super stoked about is just the amount of innovation coming out of this proposal. Like whether even anything happens or not, this discussion has been pretty awesome in terms of the amount of cool ideas that have been thought up and communicated, and just showcases and highlights how much the sushi community cares. And I think we should like pound the table about how exciting and awesome that is. There is like a big win that's already come out of this process, just in terms of all this discussion, all of this excitement, all of these ideas. I think that's just awesome. And I want to like highlight that Uma's role in this, like, this is sushi's trade, right? This is all about doing what's best for the sushi community. I'm excited to showcase, like, to help to facilitate the trade. I'm excited. We're excited to just make it easy. And I actually like went ahead and deployed an example prototype to mainnet that mirrored something Omakase recently posted, and put together in like an hour, just to showcase how easy it is. But I do want to just be very clear to everyone on this call. We're just trying to be like some plumbing that makes the trade easy. We really, it's all about the sushi community figuring out what's best and figuring out what the right terms are, and we would just love to help execute or implement that.
Hopefully, as Hart said, the amount of innovation, organic innovation that just came from this proposal, and the process, has been, awesome. So like super happy to have like Uma here today, like kind of like go through any thoughts they have on like, the current plumbing, and, any future potential plumbing for any other protocols that like are doing similar things. Yeah, it's really awesome.
So yeah, Omakase, maybe with that in mind, it might be worthwhile just going through some of the history of how we even got here. And Turtle, it kind of addresses one of your questions around like, can VC funds buy this on-chain structure? Sort of something you were mentioning.
Yeah,
And
that's a slight concern.
but a very real concern, right? Because we want something that, does the tool fit the purpose? Like, does it get the job done? Um, and if you guys go back, we introduced this concept of this range token about a month ago. I think it was 5 weeks ago that Kevin first blogged about this, and then we went ahead about 3 weeks ago and actually did a test trade of this with our own token. So like this first range token to showcase how this works. And the range token idea looks it looks a lot more like debt. It looks more like it's like a convertible note. It's like a hybrid product that looks more like you're borrowing against your treasury. And some of the venture funds that I talked to about this were kind of like, hey, I don't know that we really want to buy this because we are venture funds. We just want upside. We don't really want debt or yield. And sort of some of those conversations and then seeing what was going on with the sushi raise, it all happened at the same time. And we kind of came up with this other idea of like, well, wait, let's do something that is different than the range token. Let's instead make it be a token plus an option. And that can be a package. It can be a structured product, a structured note that we can all package into a single token. We are attempting to brand this. I'm kind of curious what name will come out of this, but we kind of called it a success token because that token's only worthwhile if the project is successful. But this idea of this whole idea, Turtle, came out of these conversations with with a couple venture funds, stemming from like, do they want to buy the range token? And kind of like we realized that there's this better incentive structure that is much more based on upside, much more like equity like. That is this token plus call option structure. And by creating it, by wrapping it into a single ERC20 token, I believe we actually sidestep. So this is where I'm getting back to your question. We sidestep all the concerns about a venture fund being able to buy this. Because essentially, if a venture fund is able to buy an ERC20 token, like Sushi itself, they are now able to buy this structure, this on-chain structure. And I think that's actually a pretty cool outcome. So, the funds I've talked to, I do believe that a fund, even like Lightspeed, given that they're able to buy ERC20 assets, their fund agreement will allow them to buy things like this sort of structured note that embeds this call option into this bigger structure. Maybe I'll pause there.
Yeah, no, thank you for giving me more background on that. And do you maybe sort of just want to like give a very simple example of how the success token works, just to break it down for anybody who maybe missed out on earlier conversations?
Yeah, totally. So the idea here is like, what was the original initial proposal is VC funds get to buy tokens at a discount, and those tokens are locked. So conceptually, what's going on here? We take a Sushi token, we lock it up, and let's say we do this on chain. We actually lock this into a contract that locks up the Sushi token, and we sell access to this locked Sushi token for a price below spot value. So it's kind of one structure. And the idea of, well, I won't repeat this, but selling tokens at a discount, people don't like, because it's like, hey, why is this VC person getting special access? The thought process is like, okay, well, let's not actually sell this at a discount. Let's instead embed a call option. So let's take actually more than one Sushi token. I'll just make it easy. Take 2 Sushi tokens, wrap them up, and create one contract that locks one of those Sushi tokens for a period of time and uses the other Sushi token as collateral for this option that can be struck out of the money. And this option effectively takes the form of the discount you might offer an investor, but in a more incentive aligned way. That option only proves valuable if it pays out. And if that option, like for example, we could set the strike of that option at say $25, like a little bit above the all-time highs in Sushi. And in that case, the option is only valuable if Sushi rallies through those all-time highs. That's like the very high level, I think, of looking at it. But maybe Kevin or Clayton, maybe you guys have other ideas, other kind of like Cliff Notes way of describing this success token idea?
Sure. The way that I look at it is kind of like you get this call option in exchange for your willingness to lock up some of your money for this time. So you could see it as just buying some sushi today, and you're willing to lock it for a year or 2 years or 3 years. And then you get this added bonus, which is this basically like additional payoff if the token goes up. That's the way I look at it, just in really simple terms. If you're like a long-term sushi bowl and you intend to hold your sushi tokens like through thick and thin for a while because you believe in the long-term vision, it's kind of a no-brainer to want to participate. That's the way I look at it, Hart. I might have missed a detail though.
No, I actually really like that, Clayton. And if you actually think about it from the community perspective, like people are talking about like auctioning this off to the community, right? So let's just say community comes in and says, "Hey, I'm willing to lock tokens for 2 years, and I get an option for doing so. I get some added upside for doing so." That's really cool, right? And you can imagine the self-selecting group of people that choose to buy that are the ones that are the biggest long-term believers in sushi, who also believe that they can contribute. They can literally make effort through the community to actually help that outcome happen. So we really are like aligning incentives there, where it's like, okay, I'm going to lock my sushi tokens for 2 years, get this option, and I'm going to work like hell to make that option pay out and be worthwhile.
Gotcha. And you was asking if it would have a premium attached to the call option, or if the call option is assumed to be free.
I think
I
that's
guess
where
that's
I
an
look
open
at it.
question.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at how you price this, and I don't think there's actually any one way of looking at it. Like, you can run the option through a theoretical options calculator, which, like Kevin and I have done before. It's actually, if you go back and you look at Kevin's first initial range token proposal in the thread in the forum, he actually links to an Excel spreadsheet that has, or a Google Docs spreadsheet that has like a whole Black-Scholes calculator built into it. So you can go ahead and put like a theoretical price on this option, but I think that's only one way of looking at it. I really like what Clayton's idea is, or Clayton's way of looking at it, which is like, okay, I'm willing to lock my sushi up for 2 years. What is the option? What is the market clearing price for what that option would be that compensates me for locking my sushi up for those 2 years? And if you think about it that way, Turtle, I kind of think that's like a pretty cool way of looking at it. Locking up your tokens does have some cost. You are giving up an opportunity cost from having those be, freely tradable. Let's pay for that opportunity cost with an option. And then it's just a matter of like, okay, what should the terms be? Does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. It really comes down to like projections then, sort of like how well you project the token to do, like looking for like 2 years into the future, which is, I mean, I'm bullish on sushi, but it's tough. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think also, it comes down to projections, and it also comes down to this like concept of pinning, right? So there's lots of Arca, lots of other funds that have, bought sushi, have their own, discounted cash flow, or additional models that are pricing sushi, currently as pretty undervalued, just based on like cash flows that sushi generates for the protocol, etc. So how I kind of see like the options pricing is, as Hart mentioned, you could run it through a Black-Scholes calculator that might not account for every kind of nuance, because especially when sushi, we still have an emission schedule, right? So technically, if we can, if basically all parties, including the community, right, can agree to what this kind of call option price can be pinned at, I think that's an interesting concept that hasn't really been, explored anywhere else, because that's basically saying, okay, in 2 years' time, when we've gone through full emissions, right? This is what we feel sushi's price should be at, right? At fair value, because and it's a primary motivator, right? Because as Hart and Clayton said as well, right? Then you lock up your sushi, and then you have this call option that everybody will try to like pitch in to make happen, right? Because if we don't reach that strike price, then this whole thing expires worthless, right? And that basically option is never realized. So essentially, that's I guess what it can come down to is like price signaling and pinning, like where we agree, or where all interested stakeholders feel is like a reasonable goal to achieve. And that I think that's a pretty interesting concept, and structure that really aligns all the incentives for all parties, right? Because we all have to work together to actually make this happen. If we don't work together, or if one side is being lazy, etc., then this just won't be realized, right? And then everybody's options expire worthless. So kind of all together, do or die kind of scenario.
I like that. Like, yeah, that do or die concept is what, that is, I think, the cool part about it. And, relative to just selling tokens at a discount where there is no do or die kind of incentive here, that's, I think, the advantage of this line of thinking, or the structure. And in terms of then setting the terms, like that's the part where like I don't want to have, like, Uma doesn't want to have any opinion on what the terms are here, and we don't care. We just think it's like this general concept, this incentive structure makes sense. The terms are kind of up for the sushi community to negotiate with investors, or with themselves if they do a community sale too.
Yeah. Looks like we had a question from Silver Mohawk. I don't know if you're raising your hand. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys. Silver Mohawk from Golden Pear Capital. Just one quick reflection that I thought sounded really cool about this, which is I've actually built and sold a couple of tech businesses. And one of the things that sounds really nice about this is that from a community perspective, it allows us to have a top line view of what do we want to achieve. So if we're aiming at a certain value for the token, we can backtrack that into value, into like how much revenue do we need to be generating. And then we get aligned as a community around how do we drive towards those revenue goals. It's like a strategic imperative with a smart contract backing where we need to be. And it aligns, strategy along with the financial incentives of the community. So personally, I think it sounds really exciting.
Awesome.
Definitely. I think that's a great point, that whatever the strike price we agree to, right? Whatever details, that sets kind of the agenda for driving the top line, KPIs and etc. All to work together to achieve it. Yeah, it's great insight. Thank you.
Also, maybe just touching on the strike price and all of that, there was that tweet by MGNR earlier today, just kind of breaking there, suggesting that maybe we're getting taken for a bit of a ride here. I don't know if anybody had a chance to take a look through that one, but just to maybe point out how maybe some adjustments that we can make, or ways to mitigate the issues that were brought up in that thread. I don't know if anybody had a chance to take a look at that.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Hart. Sorry.
No, Omakase, you first, please.
Oh, well, I think they assigned a pretty low strike price, and on the proposal itself, it said that the strike price is definitely a detail that's currently in review. And I somewhat regret even putting a suggestion of what the current strike is. The strike price that they used, 12, I think is incredibly low. Just given current volatility, etc. And personally, I think the strike price should be much higher. As Hart suggested, all-time highs, also wouldn't be a bad idea, because it then aligns its incentives to actually grow to reach that price, right? And I think that's a fair goal to be set.
Yeah, I want to say again, like, I don't want to be really suggesting terms here. I don't think that's like my role, but I will going if I as a sushi community member, I do also think the $12 strike price is too low. Like SBF sort of suggested this. I think he's like strikes it, call option struck at 2 times the current spot. I don't think he thought about it deeply enough before he like made that offhanded suggestion. It's too cheap, and I think it should be higher than that. And so, from that perspective, Tangle, I think MGNR's tweet has some merit. Like, think about what the value of this option is. At the same time, I also think that like doing a theoretical options pricing for this is only one way of looking at it. I don't think that's the only or correct way of pricing this stuff. I think you've kind of got to zoom out and look at it from the macro perspective, more like what Omakase is saying. It's like, what are we actually trying to achieve? And what is the community goal here? And I think, yeah, that's basically it. So I think, like, to me, you don't want to set this too cheap, but there's no magic calculator for how to really think about this. It's just much more about like, what is the right outcome that the sushi community wants, that aligns incentives between the community and its investors. That'd be my take.
Yeah, perfect. And I think just making a key point there on the strike price is still up for is still in review and up for discussion. So let's not to get caught on that. I am noticing a lot of these posts and a lot of things do get caught up on details, which are constantly changing and ever evolving. And that's the beauty of what we've got going on here with the community discussion. So in a way, it's kind of nice to say, hey, thank you for all of that tweet so that we can adjust accordingly. So, just good to let the community know that we are still being dynamic and looking to take any of that feedback and try and convert it to positivity here. So glad that we're having a discussion about that as well.
Yeah, Tango. Yeah. I think, yeah, go ahead, Kev. Sorry.
No, I was just saying that's the great thing about DeFi and showing that it's working. Like, instead of having all these discussions in a back room where no one's privy to it, it's all in the open now. And we have people in the community and I guess DeFi members all looking out for each other and kind of pointing things out. So I think it's a very positive thing, I think, with that tweet coming out.
Yeah, agreed.
I had a question that's like mildly a change in direction, so feel free to sort of delay it. But so when we joined this call, you said that you're moving away from the discounted token, and then also that kind of one of the precepts here is that the offer be made open to the community as well as to any investors. And so I guess my imagining that whatever this sale is, it would have to be the same format, or is it just the terms? And so like you might strike a deal that's more of a legal contract with investors and then do something that's DeFi native with the community, or is this kind of a detail we haven't sorted yet?
I would say in terms of the execution, the details aren't set. For the community round, it would be ultimately a crowd sale, and that would be through the MISO platform. As I kind of prefaced earlier, like there's still discussions on how do we, because the objective for that, community round is definitely equality of access, right? And so how do we structure that in a way that's fair, right? Like there's been discussions saying that we will generate a whitelist based off a snapshot of like all current addresses and their, sushi holdings. And then it'll be up to the community to decide like what they think is like fair parameters, right? For preventing, larger or, preventing, funds or, other actors that may already be participating in the institutional round and preventing them from entering into the community round. So I guess execution-wise, those things are still up for grabs. I would say, um, you know, probably we are thinking about having things on chain wherever possible, right? Because it's DeFi. But then this just comes down to the details.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, it's just exciting. It's cool that you guys have arrived at that as like kind of these two key starting points. I think kind of helps focus the conversation.
Awesome. We've got another question here. Oh, Hamlet Machine. You're still muted there, Hamlet Machine. Are you? There you are.
Hey, you guys hear me right?
You betcha.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, huge sushi ball, and very excited for all the developments here. To play devil's advocate on one point, in trying to come up with some fair, call option valuation, whether 12 or 25 or whatever the number may be. It seems to me that one of the biggest unknowns that likely is going to have the largest effect on price is going to unfortunately be the larger macro market. So whether that's just in crypto in terms of does Bitcoin drop down to 20 or 14,000 again, or even the larger macro market of the money printer going burr, starting to slowly wind down, and that triggering massive deleveraging across global markets in general. Even though I think easy arguments can be made for sushi KPIs to continue to show up and to the right in terms of value, utility, and ultimately profit. I'm wondering though if even if sushi goes up and to the right for the next 2 years, but the wider market goes completely flat, if that is going to have a huge effect on any of these types of discussions where, maybe sushi is only at $10 in 2 years, but, Bitcoin's at 20,000. And so in terms of that, it's a great success. But certainly in terms of the numbers we're trying to come up with today, maybe it's off the mark. And I'm just wondering if you guys have any thoughts on how the wider macro factors may influence an otherwise very successful sushi product life.
I'll jump in and say I think it's a really great point. And there are ways you can design a structure that addresses that. So, for example, we could actually make the option payout be not sushi price, but like sushi's market cap relative to all of DeFi. So it could pay out based on sushi's market cap growing relative to the rest of the DeFi market or crypto market. Like the flexibility is kind of immense. I think that there are there's this trade-off, right, of complexity, like kind of conceptual complexity versus maybe like the kind of addressing all the nuances that has to be made. And I think something like a straight call option might be the easiest thing, best trade-off between complexity and addressing all this stuff. But like what's really cool is we could invent a version of this that pays out based on sushi's relative to performance. It could even be paid out based on sushi, like volume metrics, like how much volume sushi's doing or something like that, or total fees earned by X sushi or something. There's a lot of flexibility in future versions.
No, I agree that with Heart, and there's obviously a lot of flexibility in how we structure it, but it does get very complex. The other thing is that with any investment, I think there's always like the macro factors and also the idiosyncratic factors. So even if you were to buy sushi outright, you're exposed to the same factors. So the call option is going to naturally be exposed to the same factors as well. So I think it's going to be hard to justify kind of make that option in a more specific and particular way when investments in general are all exposed to the same kind of macro factors, I think.
And I guess also, this might not be the answer you're looking for, but it's also a matter of conviction. Right. Regardless of like macro factors, I do think that price is kind of influenced both by certain KPIs, right? Like volume is definitely one of them, like fees generated, etc. Like how fast we're growing. But also it comes down to kind of comparables, right? So if you want to see like Sushi's current market cap versus something like Binance, Coinbase, other, exchanges, I think, why not, as Hart just said, it could be, the KPI could be like a relative comparison of Sushi to the DeFi index. But why not set the goal higher, right? And this is the whole reason, right? We're having kind of a strategic raise and having, considering strategic partners and institutions is so that we can actually begin to say, hey, market cap of, Coinbase or Binance, those aren't too crazy, right? Because we have everything on a decentralized infrastructure, right? L2s are coming online, the user experience, is going to become incredibly competitive with, Web 2. And, we're already starting to do some things that are like way above like what exchanges can do. So for an example, right, like, we have our limit order system on Polygon that we're, currently evaluating. And I think that whole system built on Bento Box is incredibly interesting because you can start to chain limit orders because since all the balances are virtualized, you can open as many limit orders as you want. And, the first one that gets hit will be filled with, whatever your outstanding balance is on Bento Box. That's something you can't really do on centralized exchanges because their infrastructure doesn't kind of allow for that kind of design. So I think in terms of, regardless of macro factors, I think also like setting price is kind of a conviction and also forward estimation of like how large do you think, Sushi's market cap should be, right? And I think some good comparables and some realistic comparables, like goals we should be reaching are like, let's compare ourselves to Coinbase. Let's compare ourselves with, Binance. Right now we're on a decentralized infrastructure, and there are pain points to that, right? But those things will improve, and in 2 years, like realistically, you could be looking at decentralized applications that are very very competitive in every single vertical against like traditional centralized organizations. And I think that's something we should aim for.
Thanks for those thoughts, guys. It's really, really good stuff. And actually, to go a little to the side there, Amakasi, regarding the limit orders, I used to work at one of the large exchanges for a number of years. And the first thing I thought when I saw these limit orders is, does that mean we could also leverage Bento Box for take profit and um, uh, uh, stop loss orders, and even going so far as to introduce leverage on limit orders utilizing the same underlying Bento Box system, and that would bring us to even more parity with the Binances and the Coinbases and those types of order types that customers may be looking for.
Oh, definitely. Stop losses are definitely on the future roadmap. And leverage is also something we've been utilizing. Kashi, the lending system built on Bento Box. I think these are not so much of a technical challenge anymore in the roadmap. They're more of a product and like UX UI challenge, right? Like how do you make these things like comprehensible, right, to the user who's like very very accustomed to just swaps. We're on our roadmap. We're going to be starting to introduce things like making leverage more exposed in the swap interface, right? Limit orders on Polygon is already very exposed, right? That's all built on Bento Box, and that's from some lessons learned from when we launched Kashi, right? It needs to be like very tightly integrated with the product, not kind of as its own separate thing. So all these things will improve, and I think the technology is getting there. We're quite frankly, I'm very excited about like where DeFi can be in like 2 years. I think it's going to be for a product kind of like Sushi, that's kind of like an ecosystem and a comprehensive like trading platform. I think it's going to be very 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 competitive against like these centralized products, and probably better in lots of different ways. So that's very exciting, and I think that's something we should all be aiming for, right, in 2 years. or we should just all go work at Coinbase, right? That's basically the general thoughts on that.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Hamlet. And just to remind everybody, if you have any questions or any comments you want to make, feel free to click the little hand button to raise your hand, and we'll get you up here to, hear your thoughts or hear your question.
We've also got the text, AMA text questions as well. It looks like Uma's been doing a great job of following up on those, but yeah, I don't know if there's anything in there that we need to kind of go over or anything here too much that hasn't really been covered. Legal concerns when offering tokens publicly. I think we kind of touched on that a bit today, but yeah, just especially if, like I think you were saying, or I can't remember if it was Hart or Kevin, maybe it was Clayton. Jeez, I can't remember now. But you were saying if an institution is able to buy ERC20s, then this here would be a proper solution for that. Wouldn't make any difference at that point because it's just purchasing an ERC20. Does that kind of cover that?
Yeah, I think Tangle, there is like other legal concerns about like who should have access to the sale.
Right.
And I don't. Right. I will say that disclaimer, not a lawyer, not a U.S. securities lawyer, but that is one reason why the private sale is nice, because it doesn't matter what happens there. That's just a private sale. It's like an investor doing an investment in something that's totally kosher, kind of any way you cut it. For the community sale, there may be other legal questions that are raised that, again, I think I want the community to have access to this, and they should, and it sounds like they will. But those legal questions are not something that I can really speak to, and I think that there's a wide range of opinions, and it's a whole rabbit hole that like I just don't want to go into.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Yeah.
And is there possibility where we would be using MISO as like a Dutch auction with these for this sort of call option embedded product to then basically set whatever based on demand, the demand will set the premium.
So Turtle, like that's a sort of one of, like Omakase said, like I think that'd be an implementation detail about how you guys want to do this. I think it's a really cool idea. In terms of feasibility, it's completely feasible. Like this sort of structured product, this success token thing, is just a standard ERC20 token. So you can 100% load that into MISO and do the auction that way to set the price. I think that's like really cool and really feasible. Just kind of up to the community as to like if that's something that appeals to them.
Yeah, I just want to say that like because this would be somewhat groundbreaking and Sushi would be leading the way here, I think it would be really cool for the community to see a sale go successful on MISO and then be able to basically lead the way and have other teams that are using these treasury diversifying products to do like it would really kind of give people that idea that that's the way forward. And we've had other teams ask like how where are we going to sell these tokens, so I think it'd be pretty cool for Sushi to lead the way there, and then other teams can as well. I think that's kind of a cool angle to this.
Yeah, like Clayton, like to harp on that for a second, I really think that there is quite a potential for a whole other almost like sphere of DeFi products to emerge out of this or related concepts. So you could imagine like a whole debt market that's like range tokens or smog tokens or some other related structure, or in a whole other market for like success tokens or kind of call options that all emerge because other DAOs are looking to do similar types of strategic raises. And all of it kind of like aligns with Sushi's just worldview very nicely, where it creates a whole bunch of other cool ERC20 products that can be launched on MISO, can be traded on Sushi, all the related things. It's kind of like we're just growing the DeFi market, the DeFi pie, and I think that's like super cool. Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's it. Just I think that's exactly right, and I would love to see that flourish on Sushi. Definitely.
Cool. And again, if anybody from the audience has questions, please raise your hand. Or the AMA text questions, which we do have some good comments coming in there. But yeah, please don't be shy. Please don't be shy. I don't know, anything else that the UMA team wants to touch on or discuss, or Omakase?
I'm actually I apologize, I don't know this off the top of my head, but what sort of audits have the UMA? I'm pretty sure. I don't think the UMA contracts have been formally verified, but I'm pretty sure that the UMA contracts are like some of the safest, like most peer-reviewed sort of contracts out there.
Yeah, the code base is pretty stable, Turtle, and they've all been reviewed by or audited by Open Zeppelin. We actually have a really great relationship with Open Zeppelin. We are not formally verified. That would be nice. We haven't done that yet, but they're all Open Zeppelin audited and pretty stable code base.
And pressure tested. We've had over 200 million in there without incident or attack or anything.
That is a strong, would have been a strong incentive if there was a attack vector. Omakase, do you think we can use the UMA product without formal verification? I mean, 200 million and locked up with no vulnerability found, and they've been around for, I don't know, many months now. It must have been close to a year, if not more.
Right. I think we can continue to discuss execution and implementation details, and we're happy to give our opinions on UMA contracts, and possibly even put them in our queue to be formally verified. But generally, I think if contracts are battle tested, right? There's active users, etc. Like there should be limited risks. But again, this is an implementation detail, and if the community is generally supportive of the general structure and then the specific terms, right, that will be set, then we'll definitely proceed to execution, and we'll figure out like what that specifically looks like, and work with all relevant parties.
All right, cool. I don't want to steamroll over anybody, so if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask or speak up. But I was sort of just curious, just on a general sort of temperature check level, where people land on their personal thoughts about the strike price, or if we did use a call style, what's strike price? Because I'm sort of leaning towards 20 or more as a strike price.
And
on like
as
a 2
we
3 year expiry. Sorry, go ahead.
no, sorry, Magic Turtle. I guess to emphasize this point, like we have these AMAs every day to increase accessibility, visibility, and transparency into this into this entire process, whatever the result may be. So really encourage everyone to like participate, right? Ask questions, and don't be afraid to ask bad questions. There are no bad questions. And at the end of the day, right, like as Magic just said, like really interested to hear everybody's thoughts on what you feel the correct strike price should be, and also if you feel this whole call option is like just wrong, right? And we're a community, and this whole process is about like putting up proposals, revising proposals, and making them more precise as we go along. And I think we've come a long way, right? So, thankful for everybody who shows up to these AMAs and engages. I
Just
think we
got
had a raised hand somewhere.
Jason here. Jason, if you, there you are. Hi, thanks again.
Hey. Yeah. So a comment for the strike price. I agree with Magic Turtle in terms of 20 plus. I think it should be all-time high or whatever, but it is an interesting, it does deserve some thought process into Sushi's price relative to the market or Sushi's price relative to a competitor, things like that. My question was more kind of, I know in a previous, I think it was the last meeting or AMA that you guys had, where you were talking about, well, now we're going to really be more selective about who we bring on as strategic partners, and it's somebody who can help with, regulatory, legal. I think there was a few things technical and things like that. My question was more, have you guys boiled down what those sort of criterias are, or do you think that your criteria might be strict enough to where you're only going to have a few people that are going to be able to apply to that? I guess I just wanted to kind of know your thoughts on that, and to see how stretchy that sort of criteria is.
Definitely. So I wrote a summary regarding what we feel is strategic to Sushi based off of where we are and where we see ourselves going. I think those attributes could be a little stretchy, right? But what it comes down to is basically, we're building an ecosystem, right? We need deal flow, we need projects to leverage that ecosystem, and then if they have good experiences on that ecosystem, right, they'll tell everybody, etc. Network effects, right? On a second dimension is, since we're an ecosystem and we're going to have so many like projects, launch, use, maintain, grow, incentivize, all on the Sushi ecosystem, it gives us the opportunity to set standards, right? So what we're really interested in is like finding strategic partners that have experiences in setting standards, right, in industry. So, there's and as I mentioned in that summary of what it means to be strategic, this probably does lean towards more either traditional or also more established entities, because these entities have kind of gone through the process of um, you know funding a new technology, establishing the standards, growing, etc. Right? DeFi right now is still very, 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 very new. Right? There are no standards. Right? So Sushi has, I think, an incredible opportunity to actually set standards, and that's a mix of both product, regulatory, legal, and also infrastructural concerns. Right? So and then as an aside, right, like. What's also strategic to us are people who, and as I said, they don't necessarily need to be VCs, right? There's strategic value can be extracted from all sorts of entities, right? As long as they're willing to, participate, right, in our governance structure, and also, take the first jump into crypto, right? Some people might still be like very hesitant about that, right? And we're constantly reaching out to like groups, and we're constantly seeking and also getting suggestions from the community on who they feel are strategic, and we're reaching out to them to see if we would be a good fit. And as I was saying before, there's also like there's also the quality of having experience in capital markets. That's also going to be pretty important as it comes to like recommendations for treasury management, right? Because if we do go forward with this treasury diversification and this strategic raise, right, we need also partners who have experience on how to leverage the USDC as a sword and a shield, right, during these times. Like Sushi's undervalued, buyback, etc. And I'm an engineer, right? I'm not a trader. I don't even look at the prices on the market on a day to day. But as we grow as an organization and become more sophisticated, we actually need advisory, and we need like we need partners who can like inform us of these kinds of decisions. So that's generally what the phrase strategic is. I know in the original proposal there was like a short list of like 23 firms. I can say pretty distinctively, like that list will become very much reduced. And I would say like the tree has been shaken, right? You can go out into the forum, you can go out into the Twitter, and you can see already which entities are very highly engaged, right, with both the community and this process, etc. And that's something; those are definitely like bonus points, right? That's something we'd like to see. And as I emphasize on all these AMAs, right, for anybody sitting out there in the audience, right, if you're kind of an interested entity, right, come up, reach out to Magic Turtle and Tangle and schedule something and, join these AMAs, right? We want people to be engaged and involved. And that's one of the basic requirements for like becoming a strategic partner, right? You just have to, have a voice, right? Regardless of like, regardless of, what's the, primary motivation. You just need to be like involved, right? So definitely continue recommending that. And, we have throughout this week, multiple entities who are willing to take the first step and get up here and, discuss what they're all about, what they feel like strategic value added to Sushi they can bring. I mean, and we continue and really appreciate that for anybody who's willing to take, this step, because it's critical. And sometimes it's scary, right, to get up stage in front of like 200 people. But that's the first step of governance. And the only way we're going to grow DeFi is if within our own governance, we can grow to multiple networks, right? And I've said this in other AMAs. Sushi's community is kind of a testament to our network effects. But we also need to access network effects in other different types of communities and incorporate them and grow them into ours, right? Even if that means onboarding like traditional firms that have no DeFi experience, have no like governance experience, etc. Right? Onboarding them will only grow like the DeFi pie, because everybody can grow together, and we can incorporate more and more and more actors into this space. I hope that addresses your question, but if you had any more specifics, I'm happy to answer as well.
No, I think that's great. Are you going to release? Did you release that? What you wrote, or are you?
Yeah, I released that. I know the forum is getting like horrendous, right? Because there's like 250 posts on there. We have community members who are working on consolidating. I think that's already done and will be released, and I'll post that in the forum.
Yeah, we can probably just touch on that now. Like we've got, I think
Yeah,
it's
sure.
it is ready for people to hop in and have a look at. We can continue to update it as we go here. There's maybe a couple things we wanted to add to it, but yeah, there's a website with which we can post in the AMA text questions, or I believe it's sushisimp.com. So sushisimp.com. You can head over there. You'll just have to log in. And then this way here, we can also have all the lists of, it has all the lists of each kind of key proposal or key, aspect of the forum, and just breaking it down and kind of giving a summary and some ideas around it. And then there's a little upvote system with it as well to kind of get a little bit more of a temperature check from the community. So hop over there. We can, I think, thank you, Cartel, for putting in the link there. So yeah, check that out. And, any feedback, of course, reach out to Magic Turtle or myself or Omakase, and we can kind of go from there. But we're going to try and add a few things as we go, but have a look, and we can start there. That kind of gives a little consolidation towards the forum, because it is a bit of a novel.
Well, that sounds great. It sounds like the right path. I don't want to. That answered my question fully. What were you going to say? I didn't mean to talk over you.
Oh, no problem. I was also going to share that specific link in the AMA chat, so I'll drop that in there in a sec.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Also, I see a bunch of people have been
Jason.
quizzing up on the popes. Basically, I'm breaking a bot every day that I use it. So 160 people, I think, got popes today. And those of you who didn't, if you didn't get a pope, just stick around in the AMA stage afterwards. I'll try and get you sorted. We'll just try and to distribute through another bot, but I just keep breaking them every time. I don't know what's going on. So
Need more duct tape.
need more duct tape. So if you did not get a Pope, if you're in here listening, if you didn't get a Pope, stick around till after the call and we'll get you sorted. So please and thank you. Too
I
sure.
also had a question in AMA text questions about if the UMA success tokens can break down their strike ranges into multiple tranches.
Is the person like? There's probably a lot of ways to interpret that, Turtle. But
So basically, 1/3 of the call would have a strike of 20, a third of it would have a strike at 25, and then the other. So really, it's like
Yeah.
three call options with a third waiting.
Or really, I think what you're saying is like per token. So you have one sushi token, and then you have a third of a call option at a 20 strike, a third of a call option at 25 strike, a third of a call option at 30 strike, or something like that.
Yeah,
you could.
Yeah, exactly.
You could totally do that, and I guess that has the advantage of like if you expire at like 22 and a half, you get 1/3 of the call option payout and you don't lose the rest. You could totally do something like that. The flexibility, it's just kind of defining the payout math, and that math is kind of extremely flexible. So any one of those would be like totally doable. You just change your formula around. It's cool idea.
Awesome. Okay, we've got Two Shrew. I'd like to speak. And then Orby, we can get to you after here. Go ahead, Two Shrew. Can you hear us? Two Shrew. Unmute your mic. Two Shrew.
All right.
Hey, there you are.
Thanks a lot, Tangle. Yeah, sorry, I was muted. I just wanted to follow up on Omakasi's last remark, and I think in general, it's a good thing for the community to do this fundraise and to reach out to, more traditional partners. But I also do think that at the same time, we as a sushi community shouldn't be naive about their intentions or their own interests. Because if you look at the history of this particular proposal, there were several times where Sushi was about to basically give away the barn because we weren't informed about all the various different financial structures that were being proposed. And, like a very good example would be when this first proposal came out, a bunch of the venture firms shorted our sushi tokens to front run the proposal. And then, you had the discounts, and then you also had these options being proposed, which, to be honest, I don't think most of the community knew how to price. So when you saw that thread coming out on Twitter last night, I think a lot of people came to the realization that we're basically swimming amongst sharks here, and there's nothing against the VCs in this community. Everyone is out here trying to make money, but at the same time, I just think we as a sushi community shouldn't be naive about their profit motivations, and be our own best advocates for getting the best price we can.
Definitely. I completely agree with that sentiment. This is why we're having, this is why I acknowledged in the beginning. I thought the proposal, didn't have the correct accessibility, didn't have the correct, visibility and transparency, and this is why we're doing all these AMAs, right? So people can come up and voice these concerns, and not get drowned out in the forum and etc. Right. So really appreciate you, coming up here and talking about these concerns. I will say though, like on the topic of giving away the barn, everything in the forum is kind of up for revision and for kind of directing discussion towards like enhancing proposals. Nothing's final, right, until it's posted on Snapshot and everybody takes a vote, right? So I just want to make that clear. There, like for whatever like iterations or revisions to the proposal, right? None of all of it should be completely transparent, right? We come up here every day, talking about like why we think it should be revised this way, and does anybody have like other suggestions to revise it another way, do a different structure, etc. Right, so these are what these sessions are for. And continuous revision, as I said in the first AMA, everything is usually a bad idea until it goes through kind of a revision process, and then we as a community can make it like the best idea possible. To kind of address the thread, right, on the like on kind of on commenting on the options and like hidden discounts, right, and like there are sharks everywhere. I would say like on a personal opinion, and everyone can feel free to disagree. I think that post, unfortunately was put out there to, as a dog whistle to kind of like garner a lot of attention and a lot of likes, right? In their very screenshot, it shows that the option pricing is heavily subject to review and like further consideration, right? So this just kind of invalidates, right, their entire claim that, oh, look, they're trying to set such a low price, and then you can exercise, and then get like a massive discount, right? So I think that part is kind of overplayed in that thread. And additionally, I do feel that we've talked a lot about the equality of access, right? And so whatever terms that like institutions get, we want to make available to the community, right, through a fair process, right? Like as I said, there's some edge cases that we'll need to discuss during execution, and we definitely welcome the community to define what those parameters are, right, for the crowd sale. And this thread kind of completely ignored all of that, right? So I think it's interesting how they would say like, oh, SBF is extremely sophisticated, and to be honest, I think he just suggested that like off the using kind of the original proposal, so all those numbers were already wrong, and it was probably an offhanded comment, and he wasn't the only one who was proposing options. So I don't think there's any like there's no strategy here, right? Like I think there's been lots of community discussion regarding options, success tokens, etc. And how do we like keep like all incentives aligned. So I think it's somewhat disingenuous and somewhat using a dog whistle to claim that, oh, there are forces at play like trying to manipulate and like guide the discussion. If those forces are present, come up to the stage right now, right? Let's discuss this, right? Because all of these decisions are kind of being made, and the rationale for these decisions are being made in the open, right? Like there's no like hidden cabal, right? Like we're committed to having AMAs every single day, so everybody's welcome to like come up and describe and address these concerns and like put things very out there in the open. So
Yeah, my
around that, yeah.
oh, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, my comments weren't directed at you guys at all. I mean, I think you guys are doing a great job of running these AMAs and whatnot. And it's not even I have a bad I don't have any ill will towards the VCs that are trying to bid on this particular proposal, and I think it's great that we're reaching out to them. It's just that we should also not be naive in our own kind of belief that they're also not profit motivated, and also in their potential future advice that they might give to our project, that their advice might be colored by their profit motives as well.
Definitely. And I think there are definitely as I mentioned, that short list of 21, I feel the tree has been shook, right? Like we can see kind of very clearly who's very consistent, and who's willing to participate, engage with the community, etc. And I think over time, this process will reveal, you know, who's a good fit. And I think it has been, very revealing, right? And, who's willing to be committed, etc. So I have no doubts that every single entity has their own best interests at heart. Um, but this is why, as I prefaced with, it comes down to um, designing and proposing the correct incentive structure. The details we can discuss and refine, but the structure needs to be in play where everybody's kind of aligned and working towards the same goal and has motivations to work for the same goal, right? Because we can say all actors in this space are self-interested. So if we can kind of design a system and mechanism that aligns all those self-interested actors to actually work towards a common goal, then I think that's a win, right? I do see what you're saying, right? And I do think that, like, yes, we definitely have to consider that every entity, has their own self-interest at heart. And then the key to mitigating that would be to design the correct incentive mechanism, right, for us to all work together. And if that mechanism can't be found, right, or we don't feel that mechanism is appropriate, then people won't vote for it, and this just won't proceed, right? So that's generally how I feel about this entire process, and how we're refining the mechanism in order to like align all parties.
Omakase, I just want to jump in and just highlight that point where this is incentive structure design. That's what we're doing here, right? And it's like up to us to design the right incentive structure. Assume everybody's self-interested, assume VCs are sharks. It's like all good, right? Let's just actually design a structure that achieves or engineers the outcome we want, which is literally like all of DeFi. It's incentive structure design. And it's actually so fucking cool that we get to do this. I'll actually frame this in a super positive light, where we are able to, as a community, a bunch of individuals, actually design incentive structures that achieve the outcome we collectively want. And so, like, I just think that's just so damn cool. So, my 2 cents.
Definitely.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I hope that answers what you need there too, Shrew. Yeah, we've just got another Orby is looking to get up here on stage as well. And and we should probably start wrapping this up as well here. We're getting to be that hour and a half mark soon. So, and again,
before Orby gets in here, there he is. Okay.
Hey guys, just double check. Can you guys hear me okay?
You bet. Thanks.
Okay, not going to take too much of your time. Thanks for all this. A lot of the questions have kind of been answered here because obviously there's so many things going on in the forums. People are talking about, why are you guys doing this? Why are VCs being onboarded? I think something that hasn't really been discussed that should be, full disclosure, I am a Sushi community member and an UMA community member. What is the plan in terms of determining and deciding what mechanics are going to be used? Are you guys looking at all the posts and looking at all the different proposals from the VCs, and as well as looking at partners? And then is the leadership group going to put one proposal together based on everything that they see, or are you going to take multiple VCs proposals and try to put 5 or 6 different proposals together for the community to look at? Thank you.
Sure. I think right now the process is curation and direction, right? So we have been reading, like, even though we are summarizing, right, all the proposals, like I've personally read through like every, 256 posts on there, right? So how we kind of see like core team's role in this is to kind of facilitate and direct the discussion, because there was a certain point on the forum where the discussion became very fragmented amongst like, VCs about us, right? Like, VC proposals, like financial proposals, and also like protocol level developments, right? So, I see these AMAs and kind of the schedule that's been set forth, right? And I'm happy to send a link to the proposed schedule for this week and going on to next week, as to how we like realign the conversation and like move forwards to, as a community towards some kind of resolution, whatever that may be, right? Nobody's driving for a specific resolution, etc. Right? We're here to kind of read all the proposals, you know take the take the best ideas and kind of come up with what we feel is a sound incentive mechanism. And then if the community, if the feedback from the community is that this incentive mechanism is generally sound, then we can proceed with like very specific details. Once those details are kind of ironed out, then we can proceed with execution, right? And Uma's up here today because they've had lots of great ideas on how to execute, right? They've also proposed alternative products, etc. Right? So we're all here together in order to basically figure out like, hey, does this generally make sense? And if so, like, what are the next steps to execution if like we can receive a mandate from the community saying that this seems to be generally sound, and this is the direction we want to move forward into. So there's been numerous posts, right? There's different people reaching out, etc. Right? The agenda for this week, right? We've set in the forum has been very specific, right? There's going to be AMAs every day. The content of those AMAs are posted in advance, right? So nobody's blindsided about like what the discussion topic is, etc. And also, for all the proposals, all the proposals have kind of informed us on what a revised proposal should look like. And, we're constantly in revision. We're constantly talking to key stakeholders, whether that's entities, whether it's the community, right? Whether that's like integration partners, right, et cetera, right? We're basically the hub, right? And also, if you ever feel at any point that this process is not accessible to you, I've put my Calendly on the forum as well. And I'm happy to share it, in the AMA chat as well. Like, you feel something's not accessible, you feel you're not being heard, you feel like, this process is confusing, etc. You set up a Calendly meeting with me, and we can go through everything like one-on-one. I've been doing that, since Monday to now, and like every day is just chock full of like 15-minute meetings, and they run over 15 minutes, no sweat, right? We're here to make sure that like this process is visible, and this process is also somewhat directed, right? Instead of fragmented into like different threads, and at the end of the day, that this process is accessible. So that's generally the approach, I guess, moving forward for this discussion. And then ultimately, it'll come down to a final proposal where we feel everybody has agreed to, the specifics and also some of the execution details, and then we can put that up for snapshot and then up for official voting. If it passes, it passes, and we execute. If it doesn't, then unfortunately, it doesn't. So kind of that's the purpose for these AMAs, to make sure there's like hyper visibility into the process. And thanks for asking the question. And if you have at any time have any like further questions, feel free to schedule something on my Calendly as well.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to reach out to Magic Turtle or I as well if for anything like that. And again, as we've mentioned here, we do have this consolidated summary that we're going to have set out here on the website. And again, you'll be able to find that link in the AMA text questions. And so that is sushisimp.com. So check that out, and then you'll have the consolidation there as well. And yeah, of course, just keep updated on the forum and whatnot.
Yeah, and unless anybody has any questions they'd like to ask, I think this is getting close to a good time to wrap up. This entire week and next week has been amazing. It's like we're running like Sushi Con, and having like speakers and attendees, and it's really quite special, I think.
Here we've got Trav that's coming up here, but yeah, you're very right, Magic Turtle. This is Sushi Con week here, so it's 720 Sushi Con weeks, Phantom Troupe. But yeah, we'll have Trav up here as our last question, and then I think you're right. This is a great place to wrap up. Trav, did you get that? Trav, did you get the invite? If you're headed up, there you are.
There we go. Pardon me.
Thank you.
Thanks for giving me a chance to talk. So just you mentioned the Pope thing that you sent out. That's the Sushi Pope 5 that would come in like our inbox.
Yeah, Sushi Pope -5. That's the current one,
Okay.
and that one is now blown up. So for those of you that got it, there's 160 of you. For those that got it, congratulations. For those that didn't, just stick around. But we're gonna need everybody that did get one to please clear out of the room when the call is over, and we'll get the rest of the people sorted out after that. So thank you.
Cool. And sorry, can I just ask a question related to it? So I just get so much like nonsense sent into my messages on here. How would like you just happened to mention it and I heard you say it on here. How would I know that this came from you and isn't just some like I mean obviously
Yeah,
now that you've mentioned
sure,
it,
yeah,
it just we get so much spam on here that it's kind of sketchy to click on stuff like that.
Yeah, of course it is. We've been, of course, announcing it regularly. It's a massive chat in our, or massive discussion in our threads everywhere. So within the AMA, or sorry, within the Sushi Discord here. So yeah, we're doing our best to raise awareness, and yeah, happy to answer any further questions for you there afterwards. But
okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So I think if that's it, then for questions and everything, I think that's a great place to wrap up. So.
Yeah, I just want to thank Omakase, Clayton, Hart, Kevin for coming out and participating in it. Really appreciate your guys' times. And yeah, if you guys have any closing thoughts, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to thank you guys, Magic Turtle, Tangle, Omakase. Like, it is SushiCon. It's kind of amazing. It's a lot of effort. It doesn't go unnoticed. It's pretty sweet. So yeah, thanks for having us. Super cool.
Yeah, honored to be a part of SushiCon. It's been a really exciting time, and I was part of a DAO crawl, which was a meeting just before this meeting. So it's really just turning into this ongoing DAO convention, and it's tied to sushi, and it's pretty epic. It's a really cool thing to be a part of. So thank you guys.
Likewise. Thanks very much, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Uma. Appreciate all the kind words.
All right, and so that's going to wrap it up for today. Tomorrow we'll be having ARCA and Lightspeed Partner Ventures. I think I got that right. They'll be attending to sort of give their thoughts, their not reformed, but revised thoughts on sort of everything that's gone down in terms of the proposal. And yeah, should be great. I will talk to you all then. Oh, it's at 9 p.m. UTC, correct?
Yeah, Turtle. It's 2 hours later than this one, right? It's like not the same time as this one.
Yes,
right?
This one, yeah, it will start 2 hours later than today did start. So yeah,
Cool.
9 p.m. UTC just to.
Yeah, perfect. Which is our normal regular time for Thursdays as well. So that'll keep it all aligned nicely. So usually Thursday is our regular weekly call at 9 p.m. UTC. So this is good. Awesome.
All right, I will talk to you all then. Take it easy. Stay safe.